Hello, welcome. So, technology is not good or bad, rather just a reflection of its core architecture, its principles, and echo of its design. And having this in mind, 20 years ago, I was seeing how society was running towards a very bleak future. And it was about this time as well that the concept of a widespread framework for ethical coding came to be. And through this, envision the future, this optimal future that we could have, and backing it up with moral imagination and collaboration, we were able to create what is the standards for ethical coding and fair and equalitarian social economic structure for our society. I don't know if you remember in 2018 how it was. So 2018 we had no universal basic income. People didn't do any kind of clothing ritual passage. Packaging was not edible, and sports was, nobody knew actually what we could do with it. And on top of that, there was the planet was in a brim of an ecological disaster, and government and banks could not be trusted. And actually this lack of trust in these third parties, that blockchain for technology came to be through Bitcoin in 2009 as a direct response to the crisis, the financial crisis in 2008. And I know that everybody here uses blockchain as it's the base for our society nowadays, for our financial system, our healthcare, our governance, but not everyone knows how it works. And blockchain is basically a documentation system. It's like having a magic paper, that I have a magic paper and everyone else has this magic paper. And then when I write something in this paper, it appears in everyone else's right away. So no one can erase it, no one can change it. People can just add to it. And it's this trust between people that this technology was so innovative back then, and no third parties were needed anymore. So back to 2018, we were seeing, so we have like this dystopian future and this amazing new technology, but the future was not really good for us. It was seen because there was like all the technologies being developed, and we could see as an example that some problems were happening back then. And I don't know if you remember the Cambridge Analytica, the thing that started the downfall of Facebook back then. So what did they do? They misused the power, the hegemony of Facebook and social media to steal the data from people and manipulate the elections, the presidential election in the United States, and also the Brexit election in Europe. So no one was taking care of how technology was being used and all this, the assets that was behind the coding. Another good example, probably you all were teenagers back in 2018. There was also Microsoft who created this chatbot, this artificial intelligence chatbot that was made for Twitter to talk to teenagers and to learn from them and interact with them. But this chatbot went from a very lovely being to a very racist, abusive, misogynist in only 15 hours. So they didn't think thoroughly while they were coding this artificial intelligence, how people will use it and how this is going to be developed. Another good example from this time was the healthcare algorithm, like a company applied a new algorithm for a healthcare system, and this healthcare, and what they did was this algorithm was not, the only thing they was thinking about was be efficient and profit, not really thinking about the needs of people. So people that need care didn't get what they needed, they were left alone, and they could not contest it because they didn't understand what's going on. So you see that it's very hard for us to think about like a place like this, that technology was the way there was, and everything was really crazy. Nobody was taking care how it was being developed, who was coding it, and how it was doing it. And this was a very important topic for me, this kind of just to see how people were dealing with technology, how people were coding it, and not only for me, but people who actually was seeing how technology was being developed. So that's why I focused my research in making sure that designers were being ethical in what they were creating. And to do that, I look up to what was used back then in business as ethically, like the theories that were used back then in business. And so I went from absolutism to relativism and tried to combine them and put this in the middle. So this approach in the middle, so we can have like a mix of theories. And this mix of theories was called ethical pluralism. And this ethical, it is like taking different kinds of approaches and theories and to see, like to see a dilemma in different views. So how do you see this in different approaches? So and I went a step further, and I applied also. I proposed also using the moral imagination. And moral imagination is taking this ethical pluralism and rethinking like of like mind models and reframing these fictional narratives to better access ethical dilemmas and their outcomes. My research back then was really theoretical, because blockchain was such a new technology and was in the first steps. So that's why the idea behind it was to propose discussion, to create discussion over this new technology that was coming up. And like it was like a spyglass that was different lenses, let you see with different things in a different view. And questions, and doing that, like questions came up like, what I'm designing, I'm thinking about me and my community in a long term, or what was my feeling, my gut feeling is feeling, what I'm feeling about what I'm creating and the decisions that I'm making. What would like honest, decent people would do in my position if they were doing the same thing I'm doing? Am I comfortable telling everyone that I am behind this code that I'm doing, that I'm behind this design? Or am I setting a process to allow people to have like equal chances in this new environment? How could what I'm doing, what I'm creating, be used to hurt someone? Or for example, in a fantasy world, would my creation be the hero or the villain? So these questions that will make was a way to assess, to see the problem, the dilemma in different ways. And of course, back then there was many ethical canvases and frameworks already in place, but they were very academic and very closed. Some design studios, some organizations, they developed some kind of more visually appealing frameworks, but they're still very close in their market. There was no widespread of these frameworks or the proposal that would get to people like in the middle of Antarctica, that's populated now, or in the North Pole or anywhere else. So you have to see that morality is a social phenomenon, and as social beings that we are living in a complex society, we need rules and arrangements to live together. And morality is what organizes these rules into right and wrong for us to live together. And if you think about blockchain, was such in an early stage that these rules and arrangements were not set yet. So it was a white canvas, and there was and therefore I wanted to create something. I wanted to push the creation of these rules and arrangements in a more equally way. And I knew that this research of creating discussions was just the first step. So I imagine a future, and I have to move it and make it happen. And what I did was I took this spyglass with different lenses and all these theories and questionnaires, and I got together with a very amazing group of people, and designers, artists, scientists, and everything, and we founded the Kinship of Ethical Design. Well, the Kinship of Ethical Design, it instigates discussions about social issues, social problems, imagining creating optimal futures for steer the wheel in the direction that we want it to go. A more a fair, more egalitarian, more ecological future. It was in this creative hotspot that the possibilities of the Ma'at platform, the standards of ethical design today was conceived. And not only the Kinship of Ethical Design, the KED, we created this platform, we also create the AI behind it, ALA, that takes care of this whole process of this platform. So how does it work? So Ma'at became the standard of ethical coding because it combines the best of blockchain, the platform that offers, with the best of artificial intelligence and the best of humans. So how? So imagine that ALA is like a framework. It is the framework. So when you apply a project to this platform, it will read your code and will imagine outcomes and calculate what could happen and not could happen. And from that we decide. And its intelligence doesn't come only from these ethical theories, but also from other trusted blockchains, from universities, peer-reviewed publications. So it's a mix of kind of controlled intelligence, and then when after ALA revises the code, it goes to the platform for voting. And that's when the people inside the platform can vote, can discuss about the decisions that ALA made. And keeping this relationship, this symbiotic relationship between the artificial intelligence and the people. So no one is substituting the other, but more learning from each other. And also this is a way for us to keep our artificial intelligence in check. After all, she's only 15 years old, and like every teenager, sometimes she makes the wrong decisions. So it's good to have like a way of keeping in check what's going on. And then when after the voting, the project is accepted as for the community, for the artificial intelligence, it gets our seal of approval. And the seal of approval is very important because that's what make to show to everyone that your project is ethical, your project is thinking about different aspects. And you can use in your website, you can use even inside your code, like this form, so people can see right away that it's a good code. So how people become part of this network? To be part of this network, they have to get one of the projects accepted, at least one project accepted, and then they are part of the network. And how they apply for it? For applying for it, they have to buy our tokens. They're called Pluma, and different amounts of Pluma is necessary for different kind of projects. And what we do with all this investment and these tokens is that we reinvested in ethical coding literacy in public schools. One good example was Brazil in 2021, where we applied this ethical coding literacy for children in the public schools. And after just one generation, 10 years, Brazil became the most egalitarian, technological advanced, and ecological conscious region in the world. And it was also Brazil who got our first seal of approval when they decided to change their whole system of governance, financial, and everything was based in blockchain, in a public blockchain. And to be honest, I was most happy about the whole thing when actually ALA denied one of my projects. And I was really happy about this because it means that me and my team, we did something right. So no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, if you don't have like a conscious, a well-thought coding, a well-thought project, it wouldn't get accepted, it would be rejected. And so this accountability between people based in an established framework changed the ways we were doing things bit by bit. Because when blockchain start taking over the basic structure of our society, if you have like a dubious code, a not well thought code, you didn't get the seal of approval. And not getting the seal of approval, you wouldn't get, people wouldn't trust it, wouldn't join your network, wouldn't use it. And your project would die, like as no usage. So, so in the search for approval, more people start coming to our platform. And more people in our platform became more tokens. And more tokens became more investment in children literacy in public schools. And these children became adults that became fluent in ethical coding and becomes this chain of good that we created back then. And that's how we were able to change the society and create, and society now today in 2040 never been so egalitarian, so ecological balance and equal. And all we started with like a vision of the future and thinking about like ethical theories that was being used and what we want for us and what we want our society to be. And did we create the ultimate perfect thing? I don't think so. But this is the best that we have now. And more imagination urge us to be critical about our surroundings and to use empathy and solidarity in everything we do. When we question the status quo, that's when we envision what could be better. And this is what we did when blockchain was starting and it was early stages. We questioned, we came up, and we were able to come up with the right answers. And now I leave the question for everyone, what's next for all of us? Thank you.
Thank you.